You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Park Rangers Locked On Coogs. You're looking at Houston, Utah, tipping off on Wednesday night at 5 o'clock local time. Utah has got some interesting guys in their lineup. And I mean, frankly, their shortest starter is 6'6". And Houston, their tallest player is like 6'8", right? Like, this is an interesting matchup for Houston in a lot of ways. And I'm going to go down, I guess, how I think Houston matches up with them one by one in the starters and kind of where I think they get an advantage and disadvantage. The first of which is Houston will probably put Miles Uzan on Gabe Madsen. Now, Uzan's 6'4", long arms, and is improving dramatically, like exponentially improving defender, and very comfortable in the offense right now for Houston. Madsen, you'll remember, is 6'6". He had 29 points when these two teams met a year ago. Shoots a lot of threes, and also takes like 30% of their shots. I think you put Uzan on him because he's long at 6'4" with the long wingspan, positive wingspan. And I think that means he'll get up in the grill and kind of help throw off some of that shooting. You also have that Madsen's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. So you want that length to help cut off dry lanes and things like that. I think that's the natural matchup there. Madsen plays off the ball, I should say, more than Uzan does. And that can be kind of hard to track when you're used to carving point guards. Just different role, I guess I should say. And so I think I'd go with Uzan. I could see other guys getting the matchup, but I think I'd put Uzan on him and say, hey, you got one job on defense side of the ball, and that's to make sure that guy doesn't go off for 29 like he did last year. That's what I'm thinking they do. So we'll see. The other guard, and the reason this gets complicated is that Mike, I'm gonna try this at Shravamps. He's 6'9". He sometimes plays the point guard, sometimes plays the two guard. He passes and shoots threes. He doesn't do a whole lot else. If he's shooting the ball, it's a three-pointer. If he's dribbling, it's to pass and kick the ball. I say that now, I'll jinx it and something else will happen. That's what he's done on video and on his shot chart. I think he's an LJ Cryer matchup. And I know that LJ Cryer is the shortest starter in the Houston lineup, and I just put him on a 6'9" guard. First of all, I believe he's 6'8" if you told me, but he's tall. He's super, super thin. Various weights are out there on all different kinds of places as far as what he would be. I see one place has him at 190, 6'8", 6'9", 190 is pretty thin, and I bet he's not even 190, right? That said, Cryer has a sturdy base, can kind of help push him off spots. Also, though, I think that the length is most useful when Shravamps drives. And I think Cryer will be fine because he's driving to pass mostly, right? And while he won't get up in the passing lanes in the same kind of way, I do think that there'll be something there. The guy I'm most impressed with, I think Houston needs to be focused the most on shutting down. Admittedly, it might just be because the game I watched, but it's Ezra Ausar. Now, Ezra Ausar is 6'8", a wing, good athlete, gets in the paint off the bounce, strong off 2 feet, but can leap off one from distance, puts pressure on the rim offensively in like the most challenging kind of ways, because if you're out of position at all, you kind of have to foul him to have a shot. I think I put Emanuel Sharp on him. I think I put Emanuel Sharp on him for a couple reasons. One, Sharp has good wingspan, good length, and good quickness. Strong between his chest and shoulders, can kind of get in his way and bump him as he's attacking. I also think, for what it's worth, that Sharp is a very, I'll say, cheeky or challenging player to play against, right? And I said because I think it's a positive thing, but he won't be fooled by the fact that Ausar won't shoot from behind the arc very well. Again, I'm jinxing it. He'll probably go off against behind the arc, but generally speaking, that's not his game. And I think that Emanuel is smart enough to not get pulled into the tricks. And if anything, he might lure Ausar into some of those ill-advised three-point attempts that Houston wants him to be shooting. He's kind of the only guy in the starting lineup and the only guy in the perimeter for them for sure that'd be like, we want that guy shooting threes. And I kind of weirdly put my trust on that to Emanuel. Now, As far as perimeter guys go, I could see Emanuel and Uzan flipping spots as well for a number of different reasons. They both have length, and you get Emanuel out there chasing a guy around 3-point line. Milos, can bang down low and that kind of stuff as Ausar drives. That's kind of the only flip on the perimeter I see. The clear-cut matchups I see are more in the post kind of area. Jake Wallen, 6'10 forward for Utah. I think Jawan Roberts covers him for Houston. Jawan's given up a couple inches, but Wallen will play along the perimeter and shoot threes. We've seen Roberts work out there covering perimeter-oriented forwards before. Wallen can be creative with the ball in his hands, get off the bounce a little bit. I think that Roberts is probably the best of the 3 or 4, I guess 3 that play a lot post and covering that kind of stuff. And then the other part of this is that at the center position, they play a guy named Lawson Lovering. And Lovering is a really, really he doesn't fill a stat sheet, but very good kind of basketball player, involved in a lot of their offense for sure. JoJo Tucker, I think, has to cover him because Lovering is 7'1" and has a positive wingspan. You need as much length as you can, and that's why I think the frame that Tucker presents, or Javier Francis, when it's his turn to be in the game, will be covering him. He only scores back to the basket and pretty much only scores going to his right hand. But defensively, it's a pretty good job protecting the rim without getting off the ground. He doesn't commit a whole lot of fouls. I think that he's going to present problems if Houston gets themselves into foul trouble. I think Houston has to have the length on him. And so that's why I think Roberts would be on the other post guy on the perimeter. Now, if you were to get on a lineup where you somehow had Francis and Tugler on the floor at the same time, I could see Tugler covering Jake Wallen on the perimeter. And you put Francis down by the cup because what you give up in length, you don't want to lose in foot speed out there on the perimeter. It can get you beat a little bit faster. And as you see here, each of these spots, Houston is going to look tiny covering the person they're covering. And basketball has changed a lot in the last 40 years. Jordan is a perimeter guy, and before him, the game was all about size. Magic Johnson was the 6'9" point guard, and Larry Bird was a big shooter. And you had Wilt and Kareem and Hakeem and Elvin and all these big guys. It's not that the game's not about size anymore at all, and that's kind of where Houston gets hurt in this, which has shifted some. But the Utah size in this one will be an advantage, and I can already see the one commenter that always talks about how Houston doesn't have a 7-footer and da-da-da-da-da. They could have a 7-footer in this one and be outsized at the other 4 spots. And depending on how long that 7-footer is, they'd still be outsized at that spot. Utah is exceptionally long in their starting lineup. So much so that KenPom, in average height, has them as the 6th tallest team in all of college basketball and has them as the longest wingspan. That's ridiculous, right? That's just how big their lineup is. And so to combine all that together, right? That's challenging for anyone. Now, they're not juggernauts. They're 11-6. They're 3-3 in conference. People have beaten them and gotten past it. I think a big advantage for that for Houston for this weekend is going to be the bench play. Keanu Dawes is a Houston kid, Stratford kid, I think, and went to Rice for a year. He comes off the bench for them. He's 6'9". He attacks the rim. Not really a tremendous shooter. I want to double check my percentage here to make sure that I'm right. But yeah, 28%. And he's only shot it 18 times from out there. He's really more of another aggressive attack the rim kind of perimeter forward. And then Mason Madsen's kind of the opposite. He's the shortest guy they really play. He's listed at 6'4". He's Gabe Madsen's brother, and he shoots at a higher percentage but a less efficient clip. Madsen's a better athlete, better other things. Gabe Madsen is than Mason. So Mason comes off the bench and he doesn't shoot as many threes, but can really fill it up as well. The bench, though, goes to Houston if Terrance plays like Terrance. If Terrance is being his normal Terrance Arceneaux self and just being a tremendous athlete, getting by guys, getting to his spots, playing good defense, kind of getting 3 or 4 in every stat on the stat sheet, this is a Houston game because I feel confident Javier Francis is going to win his bench minutes as we've seen him get so much better in that role over the course of the season. He's been so great as a bench big that gets his 15 to 20 minutes and really dominates that period of time for Houston while he's in the game. Blake Wilson has come on as of late, but a great bench player for Houston as well. I think that he'll be important as he comes in and plays defense. He makes up for his size with speed, and I think that's going to drive some of these Utah guys crazy because they don't have a whole lot of speed. And if Terrance is being Terrance, I think Houston wins the bench thing by a lot, right? And I know I talk highly of opponents. I think people comment on the videos that I'm doing that all the time for click. Like and this is probably the teacher and coach me. I generally speaking do a lot of respect for opponent. Do have a lot of respect for opponents going into games, and I kind of I've only really thought that like after a second or third watch of the Houston blowout West Virginia, and if the DeVry kid is back by the next time they play, I might not think about it like that anymore. But this one I feel like I got some respect for because they have this awkward matchup thing across the board, right? Now, I'll talk about what else could make this game a little bit weird and give a prediction in the final segment of the show. But before we get too far, I want to talk to you about our new buddies over at Talkspace because therapy is a game changer. It can help manage stress, improve sleep, communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist and fitting sessions into a busy schedule can be a challenge, and that's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace, the leading virtual therapy provider, makes getting help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours. It's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your own home, even message therapists between appointments, which is always nice to have on hand. Plus, Talkspace is covered by many insurance plans. And for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize your mental health. As a listener to this podcast, you get $80 off your first month with Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/lockedoncollege and enter promo code SPACE80. To match the licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com/lockedoncollege and enter the promo code SPACE80 to get $80 off your first month of your support for the show. That's Talkspace.com/lockedoncollege, promo code SPACE80.